Welcome back to the show. Come on, somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $2.33 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's up 1.7. We see 64,000 plus for Bitcoin right now, 2,500 plus for Ethereum, 119 billion plus market cap for Tether, and 35 billion plus for USDC. XRP number 7 spots 54 cents. We're up 1.5 on the 24. Careful what you call progress. We're off 13.6 on the 7-day. We'll keep an eye on it. Ranging between 53 and 54 cents. We know what's coming. I think we all know what's coming. And I think this video is going to help you understand it if you don't. Link to private equity, ladies and gentlemen. I know I tell you about this often, but let me tell you something. It's because it's that great of an opportunity. That's why. Offering early access to top private tech companies before an IPO or liquidity event. You know, like mergers or acquisitions. This is what the wealthiest 1% of the people do to keep their wealth and grow their wealth, generation after generation. Why are you waiting? Click the link underneath the video and get started, because then you can get Cerberus too. They're going public. Ripple you can get. Uphold, my goodness, Uphold just introduced USD 4.9% with FDIC insurance up to $2.5 million, and you can buy their private equity. Yeah. This is the kind of opportunities I'm talking about. It's pretty simple to understand. Click the link below. Check out my sponsor. It takes less than 3 to 5 minutes to get signed up, registered, and buying private equity. It's that streamlined for you. Don't mess around. These opportunities don't last long. SEC executive who signed off on the Ripple case appeal is facing bar, and it's a complaint, and it's Jose Terrero. Faces allegations over overreaching, and we know what those overreaches are, whether we're talking about the Ripple case, the debt box case, or all the other cases he's got his name on it. And it's about time somebody started taking these issues in front of the bar. Maybe we'll start to see, because look, think of it. You know, Congress hasn't passed legislation to put Gary Gensler and the SEC back in their own lane. No, it hasn't happened. So until it does, I love this. I love this going after the individual attorney inside the SEC, because then they'll start getting a little more, I think, careful and cautious about what they choose to do under someone else's direction. You know, like Gary Gensler. Meanwhile, I want to highlight this, and I covered this in the other video, but I think it's very, very important to keep an eye on this point. The SEC Ripple appeal might work in Coinbase's favor. What Coinbase has done has filed for an interlocutory appeal to prove that the SEC is not telling the truth, that there is complete clarity using the Howey test, and they're using the Ripple appeal in that judgment, in that filing for interlocutory appeal in the Coinbase case. Why are they doing that? Because the SEC is claiming there is complete clarity with the Howey test, but the ruling from the Ripple case proves that it is not clear, right? So this is an excellent piece to submit with their interlocutory appeal, and this could make things move very quickly. It'll be interesting to see how Judge Falia in the Coinbase case handles that appeal. We'll keep you posted. Meanwhile, it's being floated out here that Robinhood's chief legal officer, I believe his name is Dan Gallagher, could replace Gary Gensler as the SEC chair under Trump administration. And I say very quickly, and I have some bias here, I'll take Chris Giancarlo, the former CFTC chairman, as the next SEC chairman. No fault to Dan Gallagher. I don't know the man, and I'm sure he'll do a fine job. But I know who Chris Giancarlo is. Chris Giancarlo was the head of the CFTC when he helped to bring in futures contracts on Bitcoin. So this is a man who I've sat down with multiple times, understands this market better than anybody I've ever spoke to be honest with you. And the truth is, I think he would make an excellent SEC chairman. And I hope that if the phone rings at his house, he picks it up and accepts the challenge. Meanwhile, I'm going to just, we covered this, but I mean, this just highlights, how close we're getting to this point where the United States is in real danger if they don't take action for legislation of the new digital economy. It's not just about betting on speculative cryptos. We're talking about the new digital economy, which means the tokenization of the traditional markets themselves. That's where the real money is in this market, or soon to be. And we know there is a push. We have stress coming from multiple different angles, whether they're domestically coming from the collapse of 15 banks in the last 3 years, renewing fears of financial instability across the country domestically. And at the same time, we know the BRICS coalition is moving hard for de-dollarization efforts. We also know that there's a push with the UN here, right, to talk about issuing more SDRs from the IMF. Take a listen.
1, we must change the rules of the international financial system and reform its governance and instruments. 2, we must shock-proof vulnerable economies by dealing with debt and liquidity in a comprehensive, development-focused manner.
Shock-proof economies. Listen to that one little part again.
Economies by dealing with, we must shock-proof vulnerable economies by dealing with debt and liquidity in a comprehensive, development-focused manner.
And I think that gets done by introducing bridge assets like XLM, XRP. I think that gets done in coordination and cooperation with private issuance of stable coins to soak up hyperinflated dollars, right? I think it comes with pre-allocating to the largest players and economies of the world, XRP, because it is a new money that's being inserted into the system. And the best way to get everybody on board is to give them some of that new money, because the old money of the world is too stressed with debt. And then you got to bring in gold, obviously, to complement all of this and reprice and reevaluate gold, I believe, to help balance out and bring that confidence to this new digital economy. I really do believe that's where we're going here. But remember way back, we all used to look at this clip from years ago. Brad Garlinghouse and the lawyer from the IMF at the time on stage together asked if they could use XRP in the IMF basket. We'll take a listen here.
You want to take one? Go for it. The first one's for you. IMF. Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? I did not put that up there.
Remember, I'm from the legal department. I'm supposed to be very conservative about these things. I don't want to go into great details about
Maybe I should take what the IMF is going to do. I think we stunned Ross into silence with that one.
For that to happen, okay, under the current legal framework, some country would have to use a crypto asset as its currency.
Wow. We've often talked about the idea that XRP could become a wholesale CBDC for the United States in the back end. I don't want to see it issued directly as a CBDC, but think of that for a moment. Just think of that if XRP were to be adopted, even in a small country, right? Just think about the implication of something like that. Because we know SWIFT is beginning to do live trials for digital assets and currency transactions in 2025. And this is in coordination, regardless of all the FUD and trolls that we had to listen to. This is absolutely in coordination with standardization of ISO 20022 messaging. Don't believe these people trying to tell you that it isn't. Now, that alone is not the answer, but it is in complement of the introduction of these digital assets and the standardization of ISO 20022 that helps bring all this together so SWIFT can participate in these trials. And it's not a sandbox anymore. This is engaging banks across North America, Europe, and Asia. 2025 going to be fireworks, which is why I'm going to remind you right now why Ripple Swell 2024 in just a couple weeks, in a week and a half, I guess it is now, is going to be so amazing. And if we're not doing so well, then why is the NYDFS going to be there? Or FDIC? Why is BBVA going to be there? Or the security officer from Coinbase? Or the head of CME Group? Or any other incredible people that are going to be speaking at this thing? This, to me, Bitwise, we know they filed for an ETF. Come on now. I mean, look, we know where this is going. this is getting pretty remarkable. And I want to remind you of something. One, going back to BRICS, don't lose sight of the fact that they are absolutely trying to demolish the US dollar. And they entertain notions like using the PetroYuan, which they've already started doing deals between Saudi Arabia and China using the Chinese yuan. But in a new report, the OMFIF, the Official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum, it's a think tank, says that BRICS countries will be discussing how to implement an alternative to the current dollar-based oil payment system, potentially using the Chinese yuan. Saudi Arabia, the world's largest supplier of oil, has recently confirmed that it is open to new ideas when it comes to oil trade, including using the yuan. Russia is also looking at using the PetroYuan as an alternative to the petrodollar to reduce its dependence on the U.S. and the SWIFT system, which is going to be trialing digital assets in the coming year, which banned Russia banks in February 2022 as a response to the conflict in Ukraine. The OMFIF says fully implementing a PetroYuan system would, in theory, be difficult for countries to operate under a surplus yuan can essentially only be spent on trade with China or simply placed in foreign reserves, which is more like the approach of the Bancor coin, if you're familiar with that, back in the day, introduced by John Maynard Keynes. BRICS financial intermediaries would then have to recycle the surpluses to other countries in need. Look, there's a lot of problems with this, but they're working towards a goal. Is this the end goal? I don't know. But the fact that they're working towards this goal means we don't have a lot of time. That's how I see this. I want to remind you of something David Schwarz has said, and I've covered it here multiple times. It's a minute and a half. I want you to listen to this really quickly, and then I'm going to show you something that I believe is absolutely relevant to this conversation. Remember this?
Yeah, at that time, so that was probably mid to late 2011, sort of two cracks were emerging in the Bitcoin narrative, such as it was at the time. Obviously, the narrative was, most of the people were technical enthusiasts. They were very interested in the technological end, and they weren't as savvy about like how to drive adoption. The only strategy that anyone could think of was a grassroots strategy. And that's not how the internet got adopted, right? The internet was adopted by government and military first. So it's
There it is. There it is. But now let me bring you to here.
Like the amount of money I borrowed. Like all of these other use cases need great payments. And so we just sort of laser focused in on payments. And I think the other thing that we did different from the very earliest days was everybody else, including us in the beginning, had this ground up strategy. Like if you don't have a strategy, your strategy is get everybody to use the thing that I think is great. And I think a lot of companies are still pursuing that. But I think there's also a sort of top down strategy. And that's kind of what the internet did. Like the internet got governments to adopt it. They got universities. They got sort of big players. And so we just...
And there you have it. And that is there you have it. Now I want to show you this. Anybody remember this? Crypto laws are coming no matter who wins, according to Tom Emmer. He just said this days ago. This is what he said. He said right here, he has big plans for the industry should Republicans gain control of all branches of the federal government in November. However, he also appears convinced that cryptocurrency regulation is coming to the United States regardless of how the election shakes out. Regardless of the outcome, I expect you to see digital asset legislation start to move in both bodies, meaning the House and the Senate. This is what he said at Masari Mainnet Conference, and he said, I think it is a when, not if, regardless of who's in charge. He goes on to say the third highest Republican ascribes to credit for his rosy outlook on the recent changes in tune on both sides of the aisle in Congress. This spring, substantial numbers of Democrats, including Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, joined Republicans to vote to overturn the anti-crypto banking rule. Days later, 71 Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, voted for FIT21 bill, a key crypto market infrastructure bill. And it says here, Emmer's most senior advisory on the House Financial Services Committee, Maxine Waters, told crypto is inevitable. Waters, for context, was a steadfast opponent of FIT21 months ago. That's a momentous statement by Maxine. Why have so many Democrats changed their tune on crypto this year? He believes it's electoral politics. Yeah, they realize they're losing to young voters, right? So they might have took the big bank money, but they're losing the young voters. And if we get crypto legislation before this year ends, it's because we've had more money flow into the lobbies and the super PACs for it than you've ever seen in the history of the crypto industry. And that means it's a bought and paid for system. And if you put enough money in, you can get the laws passed. And it looks like that's what's going to happen. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. The log jam's going to get broke. We just don't know whether it's before 24 ends or just after 25 begins. But either way, we're getting it. I'll catch all of you on the next one.